Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm actually going to be starting a new project. I'm going to be doing another sewing video this week, so hopefully you guys enjoy those and you follow along. But today I'm actually going to be having a little bit of a full circle moment because I started this channel by posting a video of working on some Ren Fair historically inspired undergarments for a full outfit that I was planning to wear to the Renaissance Festival in my area. And I posted that first video and I made the other pieces. I finished them, I filmed the whole thing, but I never got around to editing and posting them. So today I'm going to be making a new version of these things. I'll go ahead and pop up the originals and you can see how they all turned out because I really was so proud of them. But I was just in a time in my life where I realized I was really biting off more than I could chew. I'm trying to make these videos. So hopefully now I'll be able to dedicate a bit more time to them. But I'm going to be using the same pattern that I used before, and I'm going to be making a few adjustments so that it is a little bit different, so you know they're not the exact same or anything like that. Yeah, and I'll explain, you know, where I got the pattern from, what I changed the first time, what I changed now, and I'm really looking forward to it because I really love dressing up and I love wearing historical inspired fantasy costumes. And I finally have another event that I get to go to, so might as well use that bit of inspiration to make something new. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna go over the fabrics and everything that I picked out. I think it's gonna be so cute. And we'll get started. So this is my first little corset top that I made. It's very historically inspired. It does not have any waist shaping at all because it actually ends right here at the waist. And this piece is just to give it a little bit of an aesthetic. But it sits like this. When it's laced up, it has about a 2-inch gap. And I think it's so cute. I love the little fabric that I chose. It's an old bed sheet. And I put real nice synthetic boning in this, which was maybe a mistake considering it just didn't really deserve that level of high quality materials. But I really enjoyed working with those. And it just is so cute. So this is made out of 2 layers, and that's why you can see all the seams. So I think for my new corset, what I'm going to do is actually make it out of 3 layers because I don't want these seams to show. This is the fabric I'm going to be using for the corset top. It is so pretty. It's silk with a bunch of metallic woven into it. It has like gold and silver white threads. You have such a pretty pattern. I really like it a lot. So I definitely want this to go on to like a fashion corset so it can be, you know, seen on the outside. I have just over a yard of this. I got it at a little like I don't know, resale event thing that was happening in town. So this is gonna be the top, and then I'm gonna use this quilting cotton with all these little herbs on it for the skirt. And it's gonna be a really full skirt. I think I'm going to go ahead and do a gathered skirt this time instead of the circle skirt. And I'm not sure yet if I want to have a ruffle on the bottom. I thought it'd be really cute if I could do like a tie in some of these other colors, but I think these will go really well together because the kind of metallic matches this off-white and then the green. So cute. I have this canvas that I'm going to use for the inside layer. It's very thick. And I think that'll give some structure because this time I'm not going to be using premium whalebone. I am going to be using zip ties. So these are a little bit flimsier than the synthetic whalebone that I've used in the past. And I've actually already started altering this pattern a little bit, so it's a little bit different than it was before. But I got this pattern from, I think it's called Free Corset Paper, corsetmaker.com. You type your measurements into it and then it makes this little pattern for you. So the first time I made this corset, I ignored the already existing boning channels because I wanted it to be a little bit different. So you can see in the blue lines, that's where I've added channels. And before, since the boning was wider, I only put like 2 here. But for the second version, I'm going to be putting 3. Just because, like I said, they're a little bit flimsier. Not that it really needs that much structure, but I don't really want it to be wrinkling. And this doesn't have any shape for the bust, so if it isn't stiff in the front, it's going to crinkle underneath the chest, and I don't want that to happen. But the other thing that's going to be different is that this time I'm going to have some steel in the front lacing. And so this piece here I've extended because I want it to fully close in the front. Before it had a 2-inch gap, and now I want it to be shut completely. So I'm going to add 1 inch onto each side of the front piece. But other than that, I think everything fits really, really well. I might slightly adjust the angle of the straps just because I don't know if I like how they sit, or I think I actually might just do a full tie-on strap instead of having it attached in the back. Like on the last one, this was attached. I think this time I'm just going to do 2 eyelets on each side, on the back and the front. And then that way it'll just fit nicer, and I'll have ribbons tying those together on both sides. This is my little adjustment panel I've created. This is the first time I extended this because it just ended a lot shorter and I wanted it to be longer. I wanted to hit right at my waist, and then I wanted to scoop down. This time I'm actually going to cut out like, I guess this is like 1 centimeter off the bottom and then extend it out to here, because I feel like with the way the bias binding was on the last one, I extended it a little bit too far down the front, and it really caused some flipping at the seams where it didn't have boning inside it anymore. So I think maybe if I shorten this a little bit, it would be a little more comfortable for sitting in, and also it'll try to keep that from flipping around so much. I'm also going to be tying the edges this time by hand instead of machine. I did it with machine before because I ran out of time. And I think maybe if I do it that way, then I'll be able to get it a little bit closer to the boning, and maybe it'll help the support inside this inner piece. Yeah, I know this looks like a big mess, but it's just because I've changed it. Here's my new boning channels. So like these ones are ignored. And these are the ones I'm actually going to be using. Steel bone, eyelets, steel bone, and then I'm going to put 3 plastic bones here, 3 here, 2 on each side of the side seams, 3 here, and 3 on each back, or on each side of the back seam. For the inner lining, I think I'm just going to use some of that same cotton I have. Why not? If I make it cute enough, maybe it will be reversible. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna start cutting some stuff out because I think I want to get all these boning channels stitched out today. So yeah. I started out by tracing all of my markings and my pattern pieces onto the canvas inner lining. I had to freehand this curve because I didn't want to cut off the original pattern from my first version, but I just made sure they both matched, and I think that's good enough. I didn't mind marking all of my measurements and lines directly onto the canvas because I knew that I would be putting this in the inside, so it will be completely covered up by the lining and the fashion fabric, and it's just so much easier to sew nice straight channels when they're already lined out. And I made sure to measure my zip ties when I was adding these channel lines on. Even though I had drawn them out on my pattern beforehand, I wanted to make sure my actual stitch channels were all the same and were exactly what I needed so that the zip ties could go through the channels snugly, but they would still go all the way through easily. And then I cut everything out and did the same on the other side. I did iron these before I stitched up. I didn't do it before I cut it out because I was lazy, but it didn't really make that much of a difference because the fabric is so stiff. But yeah, I did iron it before I did the sewing channels part. Stitching them together was super easy. First I assembled all of the pieces for the inner lining, and then after that I did the same for the lining itself, and then those were stitched together just using the boning channels. And here's how it looks when all of the side seams are stitched. I did do the back interlining on the fold, so I didn't have to sew that piece together. And then of course I repeated all of these same steps with the lining. And now is when I'll go give everything a nice pressing before I actually stitch these two pieces of fabric together. Some would say you should do that beforehand, but I didn't feel like doing it twice, and honestly, I don't like ironing my fabric when it's still in big pieces unless I feel like I really have to. Okay, so I worked on this quite a bit last night. I got all the channels done, which I think is super exciting. And since they were going on the inside, I didn't have to worry about them too much being perfect. I think they did turn out pretty good, nice and neat. Luckily, my little zip ties here all fit inside. I'm gonna have to cut and trim these. The only ones that really turned out kind of wonky was right here on the side, but this is the inside, so I don't really mind. So now I get to cut out my fashion fabric, which I cut this out in the exact same pattern that I did before, and then I'm going to bag stitch it together. So I think I'm only going to sew this fashion piece down along the front, and then that'll turn inside out so that the seams are on the inside, and then I might do a top stitch along the side seams so that it stays like really secure right there for when I put the lining on. Or I mean, not the lining, for when I put the bias tape on the sides. Which I actually still haven't decided what I want to use for my bias binding. I might make some of my own tape out of some stuff I already have. Which I have like an ivory silk. It used to be a bed set, I think. Got it. It's like a salvaged piece. So it's like, I think an old duvet cover or something like that. So it's like really thick and sturdy and has a little bit of shine but not too much. So I thought that might be nice because the material itself is really shiny and I won't be like competing with it. But at the same time, I don't know. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay, so I actually did decide to wash this because when I was ironing it, I felt like maybe it was like kind of funky or something, and it did react really weirdly. I got really nervous, but luckily I got it wet, and then I pressed the water out, and then as I was ironing it and it dried, it really kind of went right back to how it was before. But it was very strange when wet. It was like crunchy and it kept curling on itself. I think the like plastic fibers really did not like being wet with the silk ones together, but I think it was really for the best, and now I can feel really good that it's all fresh and clean. So I honestly feel like whenever I'm nervous about washing something, I should just give it a shot anyway. For some reason, when I folded this one on the fold, I had to end up cutting it out down the middle and restitching it because it was too big, but now it's perfect. And you can see here everything lines up super nicely. Even though this is woven with something that probably has a little more stability, I was still really nervous about the floopiness of this fabric because it's silk and that's kind of notoriously hard to keep in place when you're sewing it. And I really, really want to try to get a very smooth, covered corset look with this. And when I stitched these side seams, I was very meticulous and pinned them down along the sides where the side seams were located in the lining because I wanted to be able to stitch them down the center and use those boning channels still. So I had to try to be really careful with that part. And I did have to fiddle with it quite a bit, but it worked out in the end. Here I'm putting in those side pieces together. So this is the center front seam, and then this is how it will all flip inside out in the end. So in order to try to make sure that this silk was going to be nice and smooth as it went around the curves of my torso, I did all the bias attachments and the finishing around a pillow so that it's already curved. And I did have to take this into account when I was sewing the silk on in the first place. So I had to make sure there was a little bit of ease between the silk itself and the inner lining that's very stiff, because the silk needs a little more room to stretch around the outside than the thick canvas did. But I think it all worked out, so now I'm just being really careful as I attach the bias binding. I did end up going with that little silk that I have. I think it looks really good together, so it was a good fabric for it because it's thick enough to hide any layering and you won't be able to see through it. And I just handed it. I've done hand sewn bias before, but definitely not this well. I'm really, really pleased with how it's going. And of course, those corners at the top of the straps, or I guess the base of the straps, are really difficult, but I actually managed to do it nicely this time. My first attempt on my previous corset definitely did not turn out so well, but I'm really happy with this one. And for the most part, I just did a running stitch. Every once in a while, I did a little back stitch to try to keep things nice and secure, and I think it'll hold up really well. This is a little bit of like how you get those corners nice and crisp. So you basically flip it the opposite way, and then you flip it the way you want it to go, and you should have a tiny little triangle in the center after you've done that. And that's what keeps the edge a nice pressed little curve. And so when I was pinning this piece down, and I did this on both sides of the center front, I noticed that I was having a bit of bagging with the silk, so I wanted to make sure it was pulled really tightly upwards, and that was going to stop any wrinkling from happening along the waist. So that's why I have a bit of extra here at the top, which I'm just going to trim before I fold over the bias tape and finish that off. And it looks like it's going to come along really nicely without any wrinkling or anything like that in the bias tape, because every time I've tried to do this before, I always ended up with bunching. But I honestly think the trick is to just do it by hand. So I have folded in that outside edge, and I'm just going to pin this all in place so that I can do a quick whip stitch and I won't have to worry about things sliding out of place. The corners can be a little bit difficult even going around the other side, but as long as I had them stitched down nice and clean the first time, I really just have to fold over one side and then the other. They don't look as nice as the outside ones because I guess I didn't fiddle with it enough, but only I'll see the inside, so I don't mind. And for the inner piece, all I have to do is go along with a quick whip stitch. It's super simple. I did not tie this off incrementally, which probably have been a good idea because if it breaks, then I'm probably gonna have to redo a lot more than if I would have tied it. But I'm not really that worried about it. This isn't something I'm gonna be wearing all the time, so hopefully my polyester thread will remain strong and keep this binding in place. I think it looks so good. So this is the last footage I got of the finished corset. I think it looks really great. I love the pattern. The bias binding is exactly what I wanted. Now, I don't have any eyelets in this yet, and I did not film any of the process of doing the eyelets because in a typical fashion for myself, I did the eyelets the day of my event in the morning. I ended up putting in half the amount that I need because that allowed me to still lace it up the front. And honestly, I think it works great. And you know, maybe I'll go back and do the other portion of them, but I think it's fine like it is for now. I did do all the eyelets by hand, which I prefer personally. I don't really like the metal rivets. But maybe you'll get a little glimpse of that in the reveal. So I did get to wear this out with some friends, and I'm so happy about it. Limited wrinkling in the bodice. It really does look very smooth all the way around. I'm very proud of it, especially when compared to my first version, which definitely did have quite a bit of wrinkling. And the bottom of this does not flip up like the other one. I think having the bony channels go all the way down definitely helps with that because I was able to finish this by hand instead of by machine. I didn't film any of the process of making this skirt because it was just so simple. It's literally just a gathered skirt on a waistband, and yeah, I just threw it together in a couple hours to get ready to go. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'm really pleased with how this turned out, and if you love these types of videos, I hope you can follow along because I really love historical costuming, and hopefully soon I'll be getting into some actually historical garments instead of just some of the fantastical ones. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.